This is the second part of the homework number 1 hint. Today we're going to have trying to achieve a few things. First is how to dealing with assembly. Second is how to dealing with the different processing time in the inspection, also in the assembly, how to cross-route the parts between the assembly. So before we do that, and also we want to do is for a backup station to simulate the queue overflow situation. To do this, just give a quick rundown. Here we have assembly 1, assembly 2, just using a combiner which combines the electronics and the screen together. This is fine for just straightforward implementation, but in order to do the cross route, and I cannot reroute the parts coming out of combiner to here because they already combined, they don't know which one to go with. So what I need to do is first I'm going to set the processing time for the combiner equals to 0. So this is just a dummy combiner for the logic, don't take any time. I'm going to change the name of these combiner to combine 1 and combine 2. And also I'm going to adding 2 workstation, actually called assembly 1 and assembly 2. Okay, assembly 2 right here. This one we're going to call it assembly 1, and this one we're going to call it assembly 2. Okay, and then I'm just going to link the combiner straight to here, link the combiner 2 strictly to assembly 2. Alright, and then there will be a path going from assembly 1 to post inspection as before, and there's one path going to assembly 2 to post inspection. Also, there should be a path going from assembly 1 if they are model B supposed to go to assembly 2, and there is supposed to be another path goes through from assembly 2 to assembly 1 if they are model A. So actually what we're trying to say, for model A it comes down this way, go to assembly 2, then goes to assembly 1. So therefore I can make a decision, for example on the link way portion, I can say entity is TVA, TVB actually. If it's TVB, supposedly meaning I'm done. So if it's assembly TV1, meaning assembly 2, it has to go to assembly 1. So I'm just going to do this. Entity is TVA. Copy of these. I'm going to say so it's TVA going this direction, TVB actually is done. We know that is already coming from assembly 1, so it is done. And also I'm going to change this transfer no using shortest path to by link way. So it's TVB actually going this direction, TVA going that direction. Same thing we're going to do it for assembly 1. So for assembly 1, if it's TVA, it's supposed to meaning it came from assembly 2, now done with assembly 1, it should go to post inspection. However, if it's a TVB, actually should go to assembly 2 in that case. So I'm going to do that. So that pretty much solved my problem. Okay, this pretty much solved my problem with the processing routing between 2 different part type and cross routing. Now I'm trying to address the processing time over here. Processing time over here actually I should go with data table real quick. So the data table I have set up, I call this table assembly processing time, assembly PT table. So you should see that on the right. The name is, this is supposed to be processing time for assembly stations. I want you to pay attention to how I set it up. Okay, I set it up 2 columns. One we call it assembly 1, one we call it assembly 2, and actually each one of them has its own distribution. I mean, in here is actually the same, but you could have a different distribution right here. So assembly 1 is a real number expression property, and default value is supposed to be time, and it's supposed to be based on minutes. Also, the second one is also using time units and with minute as its basis. So it's kind of important because we're going to call this table to generate the processing time for assembly, 2 assembly station. So the first row means assembly 1 model A, assembly 2 assembly 1 model B, assembly 2 model A, assembly 2 model B. So how I'm going to referring these actually, I'm going to show you actually what I need to do. I can directly reference this table in assembly 1, for example. The processing time actually should be, I'm going to using assembly processing time, actually using, I'm going to use first column, first column, model entity, model type. Okay, 1. So I'm directly using this data table as a index table. You can see that the first determining is a model entity type. I'm using the first column. So for rows, it depends on which model type. So therefore, I'm coming back just to explain again. For assembly 1, I'm using first column, and depends on the model type as its different row. So that's how I'm going to access this. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for assembly 2. I'm using the second columns right here. So that concludes how I'm going to be able to use the processing time for assembly. Now I can see how many lined up here, how many queue actually lined up this way. So you see the assembly 1, assembly 2, there are mixture of model A and model B because they are cross routing, and also they're coming through this post inspection process. And we can do the same for the post inspection. We can do the same for the inspection. I'm not going to repeat this thing. I'm just going to show you how to do that. Actually, for the inspection station, it is similar. What we can do is we can establish a pre-inspection table. We call it pre-inspection table, and depends on the part type. Is it screen or electronics? And this is model A and model B. And the way we're going to reference this is going back to the facility. All we have to do is changing the processing time right here, referring to the pre-inspection table. And first I'm going to use model entity, model type, okay, and model entity, supposed to be part type. Part type means it's a screen or a electronics. So we do the same, and I trust you can set up a data table like this yourself in a two-dimensional, one-dimensional sense, and something similar to things we set it up for the value array. You can directly use that for setting up post inspections and so on and so forth. Then to summarize this real quick, I set the combiner, just a dummy combiner in terms of logic, just bring the two parts together and then send it to a real assembly station for process, and therefore the processing times go on this. And I show you the cross routing of between the assembly station and forward to the